As Henry Kissinger met President Xi Jinping in his friendly visit to China on the Thursday of July 20, 2023, perhaps one notable remark that came from President Xi Jinping was this confession of how he really respects Kissinger.
中美关系永远和基辛格这个名字是连在一起的，中国人民将永远记住。我对你表示高度敬意。
You may have judged his body language and tone, and I bet you have noted that President Xi Jinping was speaking from the bottom of his heart when he uttered those words that, "I have great respect for you."
对你表示高度敬意。
To understand why Xi Jinping admires Kissinger and why the American is perhaps the most loved and respected American in China, you have to go back in history and see for yourself what Kissinger did for the Chinese. Henry Kissinger is considered as the man who initiated normalization of ties between China and the United States, and that's why the Chinese really respect him. While serving as President Richard Nixon's national security advisor, Henry Kissinger made a secret trip to China on July 9, 1971, and the same would later become to be known as a trip that changed the world. In the early hours of July 9, 1971, Henry Kissinger quietly boarded a Boeing 707 at an airbase in Pakistan. He was to become the first U.S. official to visit the People's Republic of China since its founding in 1949.
Even before Nixon became president in 1969, he had expressed a desire to improve American relations with China. The USA had been virtually isolated from the country since the Communists came to power in 1949, and Nixon was keen to end these 2 decades of mutual hostility. While part of his motivation was to contain China's potential nuclear threat, he also sought to use China to find a way to end the Vietnam War, while exploiting the increasingly poor relationship between China and the USSR. Kissinger was given the delicate task of making contact with the Chinese government, and following the Chinese invitation to the American ping-pong team in April 1971, it was clear that China was also interested in improving the relationship. However, without any direct channels of communication between the two countries, Kissinger was forced to use Pakistan as a third party through which the diplomatic visit would be organised. Kissinger set out on a publicly announced trip to Vietnam, Thailand, India and Pakistan in early July 1971. At the conclusion of his meetings in Pakistan, it was then announced that Kissinger was ill and would recuperate in a hill station. In reality, the motorcade to the hill station was a decoy, since Kissinger and a small group of advisors had actually boarded a Pakistani plane to Beijing. The group landed at noon and spent a total of 49 hours in China. During this time, they held a series of talks with the Chinese government that set out the parameters for an official visit by President Nixon himself. On the 15th of July, Nixon appeared on television from the Oval Office to announce that he would visit China the following year.
The announcement I shall now read is being issued simultaneously in Peking and in the United States. Knowing of President Nixon's expressed desire to visit the People's Republic of China, Premier Zhou Enlai, on behalf of the government of the People's Republic of China, has extended an invitation to President Nixon to visit China.
We seek an open world, a world in which no people, great or small, will live in angry isolation.
On February 17, 1972, after 2 years of secret and delicate negotiations, the President and First Lady were on their way to China.
The mission was codenamed Operation Marco Polo, after the 13th-century Venetian explorer who spent 17 years in China. Nixon recognized that engaging with China was not only important because of its size but also to counter the influence of Soviet Russia. What do you think about this? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe before leaving.